Well, I want to ask you one more sort of big, think, thinky sort of thinky,
All
futurisy
right.
kind of question before we close, and that is, I know you think about these issues a lot, but I don't know if you've ever had anybody ask you this question quite this way. I want you to project forward 20 years into the future, so the year is 2029, almost 2030. Imagine, if you can, the best and worst case scenario for classical music in the United States and let's say Western Europe. What do you think is the best case scenario, and what's the worst case scenario? Depending on what people choose to do, obviously.
And you're right, Jim. Nobody has actually asked me this. I love it because it makes me think. So I think there are two worst case scenarios. One of them is that classical music dies out entirely and it becomes this totally antiquarian pursuit
So
to
it's
hear
you think
over.
that's really in the possibility set that the the performance of classical music in the way that we've known it for 100 years or however long could just go away.
Yeah, I suppose it could. I don't think there's much possibility of that, but it could shrink tremendously. Why
Right.
don't we put it that way?
Right.
Shrink tremendously. I don't think that would be bad. I think it deprives the world of a lot of great art and a lot of pleasure. I mean, I slug these organizations all the time. I want to beat up on them for doing mostly the old stuff,
Right.
but that doesn't mean the old stuff should go away. That's terrific music. And it can be re-looked at for modern times.
Right.
Best case scenario is that the field actually changes and lets in the present day, so that instead of maintaining its position that we are the great exclusive high art and you must come to us and be educated in the great complexities of what we do, it would just be out there. Here's indie rock, here's country music, here's jazz, here's world music, here's classical music. This is what we do. And there would be, God, one of the great things about rock and roll is how protean it is, how it adapts. It could adapt any kind of music there is, including, as we've seen over and over again, classical. So I want to see classical do the same thing and look back to its past when it was much more connected to the present day back then and much more flexible when the audience would react during a piece. Mozart's audience clapped the moment they heard music that they liked, right while the music was going on. There wasn't this sense of piety like you're in church.
Well, now
So
you get kind of tisk tisked if you do that, right?
oh, you absolutely get tisk. You get tisk tisk if you clap in between the movements of
Oh,
a
I
long
hate that
piece.
so much. I hate that so much.
Especially because sometimes you can't resist clapping because you're so excited, but also because 100 years ago nobody thought about that at all. It was normal, and Mozart loved it when people clapped even during the music. So I'm not saying this will literally happen all the time, but to feel free to do that, to struck, and it should be informal compared to the way it is now. Forget the white tie and tails. That is just ridiculous in our age. And I think that also most of the music played will be new. It'll be new, and not only will it be new, it'll be new in styles that relate to the present day. Just for example, in our world right now, Jim, you go outside classical music, and music has a beat. We
Right.
kind of take that for granted. Now, a younger generation of classical composers, I'm calling them these days alt classical, if you have to have a label,
I like that.
but they're writing music that has a beat, because to them, pop music is an essential part of who they are and how they think about music. So I would expect a lot of classical music in the future written to have a beat and to relate to the music that's around us in all other ways. And as a matter of fact, a lot of indie rock is hard to distinguish in some ways from some of the new classical music being written now. So I would just encourage that kind of fusion.
Do you mean more like the electronica is similar in a way to classical composition, that type of music?
Well, yeah, but then you also get bands like Sonic Youth or Sigur Rós that do, this wild kind of dissonant stuff
Right,
sometimes.
right.
So, if I were totally up to date, I'd have much better references than that. Oh, Grizzly Bear and Radiohead and Bjork.
Right, right, right,
So,
right.
in matter of fact, I've first heard about Radiohead from classical composers who were insane about that music.
Right, absolutely. Anything last thing you'd like to say about what people should think about when they think about the future of classical music? What would be good for them to think about?
I think they should think about how you relate to the people who already come, to the people who aren't coming. They can learn a lot from you, Jim. And they can also learn a lot Okay, here's what they have to stop doing. An anecdote which draws its own moral. They really have to get up to date about the way the world works now, and particularly online stuff, social media. The Philadelphia Orchestra, advertising one of its concerts online, wanted to say that the violin soloist they had, Janine Jansen, a Dutch violinist, really terrific, had had the most downloaded classical recording in iTunes history. So they put that on their website, and they put the word download in quotes, as if it was something we weren't quite sure of yet. Some weird new idea. They have to stop doing that.
Downloaded.
Download. And I'm going to say one more thing, then we can go.
Okay.
I've been talking to one of the leading classical music schools in the country about some initiatives they want to take digitally, and one of them was streaming their students' concerts live for anybody who might hear them. And one of the ideas was this thing that I'm involved with, getting students to reach an audience their own age. It would really help if everybody could see them live on the web. And I was thinking, God, these students, this music school happens to be attached to a major university, so the students could cultivate fans, right. The student body at large.
Right.
But the faculty at this school apparently does not like this idea very much.
Well, you want to keep it as quiet and as private as you can, I guess.
Well, you do, and I think one of the lovely things is if you put these concerts online. How about this for a revolution? Okay, you play the cello. You wonder if you should go to this school to study the cello. Now you can watch the actual cellists in the school playing their concerts, and you can say, you know what? I don't like the way they play. I probably wouldn't like to study with that teacher. I bet the faculty is terrified of that happening.
Yeah,
that's
a little too open for some people's comfort, I guess, huh?
But that is how the world works now. So I think it'd be a big plus.
Excellent. Well, Greg, thank you very much. Once again, Greg Sandow, composer, music critic, classical music commentator and consultant, teacher, many other things, and just all-around interesting guy. Greg, thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks for having me.
We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Good. Bye.